Hey, Shelly. Thank you so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast. I am really excited to be talking with you today.
Looking forward to giving your clients massive value.
Yes. So, you are the CEO of College Ready and CR Future Now. We're going to get into all of that, but why don't you first tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Oh, where does it all begin? Well, I'm actually five generations from Southern California, so that's kind of a unique thing in itself. My children were also born here. And as a Southern California teenager growing up, I spent a lot of time at the beach, and I still find that that's my happy place. I have four kids of my own, two boys, two girls. I call them kids. They're all young adults. They have gotten into college and graduated without debt, and they're now doing life. I have two who are getting married this year, and that's super exciting. And what I get to do every day is I get to help teenagers figure out who they are, what they want to do, prove it to colleges, get accepted, and then go on and live their life. So I have a really awesome profession.
You do. It's really important. I'm helping someone launch a podcast soon all about what to do, like what kind of careers are even out there. And
Mm.
there's so many options now, so I love that you're supporting students with that. What did your journey look like from employee to boss? Like, what'd you do before you started this?
So, interesting enough, I am a serial entrepreneur. I had my first business at age 12. I was raised by two entrepreneurs. And so it was just kind of a commonality in my family. We didn't really talk about a 9 to 5 or going to work. They kind of just worked and lived, and it all blended together. And I didn't know any better. And so at age 12, I launched my first business and I sold out of my product. And I just was so overwhelmed by it all. I'm like, well, I'll do this when I get older. So
Mm.
I had a great idea, great concept. It was so good that it launched, took off. And then I got, wait a minute. So after that, I spent time really thinking about what I wanted to do. And I really loved what young girls love. I love doing hair and makeup and nails. And so and my mom's a hairdresser. So I told my mom and my dad, I bet you I'm going to be a hairdresser. And so my dad bet me $100 that I wouldn't. And long story short, I owed him $100 because when it came to really deciding what I wanted, I saw how hard my mom worked and stood on her feet all day, every day. And her hands were so beat up from all the chemicals. And there was a lot of things that as a child I didn't see. I just saw the beauty in it all. So I remember sitting my parents down my senior year and I said, hey, the high school counselor came to our class today and asked us if we're going to college. What do y'all think? That was our college planning. Is I sat my parents down and I said, what do you think about college? And I'll never forget, one of them said, no, go and get a job like we did and start making money. The other one said, well, I don't know about that. I think you would benefit from learning how to run a business on somebody else's dollar. In other words, use their wisdom and their money to help you figure out what it is you wanted to do. It was so wise. So I did. I applied to two colleges. I got into both, and now I had another problem. Where would I go? And my dad made it very simple. He said, if you go to University of Colorado, I know you're going there to snow ski. Have fun. I love you very much. And that would be the end of that, the end of my support. And then they said, or you could go to San Diego State, which is about an hour and a half from home. And we would feel a little bit more comfortable with you being near us, and we'll pay for it. Ah, off I go to San Diego State. It was a no-brainer for me. When I got there, oh my gosh, I realized that the school was so overcrowded. I was not going to get out in 4 years. It was going to take me 6 years to get a 4 year degree. And I'm
Mm.
like, that wasn't part of the plan. I want to be an entrepreneur. And so I ended up going to winter session and summer school all 4 years so I could graduate in time. And that's when the journey really started. I changed my major 5 times. I literally had no clue. I was really struggling. And I loved a lot of things, as most entrepreneurs do. We aren't just one sided, we're kind of multifaceted. And so after that, I spent time really getting clarity about what it is that I'm good at and what it is I wanted to do. And then it all came together. I started to apply to jobs, and I had multiple because I was good at interviewing. That was my strength. Here I was trying to find a job, and I was not living my greatest strength. And so I ended up graduating as a communications and debate major. Thought I was going to be a trial lawyer. I'm
Mm.
a huge advocate for those in need. And it just happens to be that I speak the language of teenagers and I love them all. And that is how College Ready got started. I did do corporate America. I will happily say 8.5 years. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I was a sales rep, and then I climbed the ladder to 8 positions in 8 years. Then they told me I'd had to move to Ohio if I wanted to continue. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm 5 generations from Southern California, and the thought of playing tennis indoors was a little strange for me. So at that point, I said, I think it's time for me to finally go and do my entrepreneur spirit. And I opened really my first entrepreneur company on my own. And then I did another, and then I did another, and I kept building them and selling them and building them and selling them because I just couldn't figure out what was my why. Why was I on this earth? I just didn't want to get to the end of my time and be like, well, what a waste. I really wanted to have something that I could inspire others, I could impact the future, I could really be a change maker and help people to have a better life. And because I'm needle phobic, I knew that was not going to be in medicine, which ironically, both of my older 2 children, one's a doctor, one's a nurse, and they were my why. College Ready got started when that firstborn came home and said, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do and where I want to go. And if you've been listening to my story, you'll know that that was a huge jump from what I had gone through. So I
You're
took
like,
you through,
"Finally, someone
yeah,
knows," right?
I took you through a good portion of pre-college ready. But yes, corporate America was amazing, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. But I've been an entrepreneur now for a very long time, and it suits me much better.
Very cool. What a cool story, and yeah, sometimes it takes time to figure out exactly the right industry or niche we wanna go into, and I love that you waited until the perfect time to really go all in on this business, and what were some of the other businesses you had and sold before this?
Oh my gosh, they were so fun. I didn't choose any of my careers. They all really came to me. I am a problem solver. And what's an entrepreneur do? We see a problem, we solve it, and then we use our expertise to help others. Well, so my first one was my mom owned a salon. And at the time, everybody was wearing the very long, straight hair. And I was an athlete, and my hair kept getting in my eyes. And so I created these little clippy things. You probably remember them that you put in, they snapped, so they held tight and they
Mhm.
would keep your hair out of your eyes. Well, I didn't want to just have a clip. I wanted to have a designer clip because those weren't very cool. And they had to match my uniforms because that was way better. And so I was making these branded clips with these ribbons and these beads. And my mom was just selling them like crazy out of her salon. So that was number one. Number two, my parents owned an antique shop. And as they did, they had a lot of people who didn't really want to do the restoration work. Well, I love art. And so for me, I said, let me do that part. I will do the restoration work. They can pay me. So again, it was kind of like a strategic partner for my parent. It wasn't something I went out and sought, but I saw there's a problem, I'm gonna solve it. My next one really came while I was working at the it was Procter& and Gamble. At Procter& and Gamble, and I had a 6-month-old, and I was like, "Oh, everybody's asking me for pictures. What am I gonna do? I don't have time." I was still very much a corporate executive, and so I just came up with this idea. I made him a little cherub angel. I created this thing in my bedroom. I took some photos right literally off a point and shoot camera. I did that black and white tinted look. I don't know, it might age me, where it was really kind of a very popular thing. And everybody blew up my phone. Who was your photographer? I want to hire them. That was amazing. Your card was brilliant. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I see an opportunity." And so I went back to school. Got my photography degree, and I opened up Photographic Memories. And that opportunity turned out to be my first six-figure company. And I was taking pictures of other people's children and loving every second of it because I was helping them to capture memories and things they would cherish forever. And it went with my inspiration and my impact. And I did that for a very long time because it allowed me to do my work while my kids were at school. And so it was the best mom job ever. I loved it. At all my kids' games, all their sports, I was there taking pictures and selling pictures and making money. It was the coolest thing ever. And then the iPhone came out, and then everybody's a photographer. And I
Mhm.
started to see very quickly that my six-figure business was starting to go a different direction. And so I sold it, and I decided it was time to go to my next one. And I was still trying to get the mommy weight off. So I decided I'm all in on, I want to be a nutritionist. So I became a nutritionist and I was helping other moms get the weight off. And I had so much fun helping people do that. And then I was like, well, it's not just food, they also need to work out. So I became a personal trainer. After the personal trainer, I had all these clients, but I had lost the inspiration and the impact long term. It was just really helping people get their life back, but it wasn't really a long term thing that I saw. And it really came when my son was in 8th grade and he came home and asked me, Mom, will you help me? I want to be a brain surgeon. I want to get into an Ivy League school. And I don't know about you parents, but when a child asks for your help, you figure it out. And so, even though I was a first generation college graduate, I knew I had to figure it out. And so, I spent that time with my son for 4 years navigating the process. I went back to school, got my master's degree, went back to school, became a certified independent college consultant, started touring 25 colleges a semester, spending 30 weeks on top of my photography career. He did exactly what I asked him to do. I have to pause on that one. When he graduated high school, he applied to 12 schools, got accepted to 11, seven full ride offers, got a full ride to USC, and Harvard matched it. So he went to Harvard pre med, graduated without debt, and everybody came knocking on my door and said, how do I get that for my child? So you can see that all of my businesses all started from a problem or a need and me wanting to provide a solution. I've been doing College Ready now for 18 application seasons. Our
Wow.
students have received over $80 million in scholarships. Our goal is to help families navigate not only how to get in, but how to get out with a career and not massive debt.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. I love that's such an important entrepreneurial mindset. When you said you were a serial entrepreneur, I was not expecting all of those different businesses, but that is amazing. I love that. And it takes a lot to know when it's time to walk away from something and start something else. What do you think the biggest entrepreneurial lesson is that you've learned? Maybe two, maybe one that you've learned from your corporate background and one that you've learned from being a serial entrepreneur.
So I'll first start with corporate America. It was a little challenging for an entrepreneur's mindset. The challenge was that everybody wanted to have meetings to talk about the next meeting, to plan for the next meeting. And I wanted to get stuff done. And so I kept climbing the corporate ladder because I kept challenging those above me to say, let's go get some success. Let's make it happen. And so my sales were always outstanding. And I never had to try to sell. I just wanted people to understand the features and the benefits of what they needed. So corporate America had its challenges, but man, was it great learning. Learning from a Fortune 500 company was absolutely critical. And I do believe set me up for success. So I encourage you, if you're in a corporate job, what can you take from it that will set you up for your future? It may not be today, but it will help you for tomorrow. And then, as far as my own entrepreneur journey, what I really would love to share is I get to work with teenagers every day. And right now, they all want to be influencers. It's a very popular career for them. But as soon as I ask them, well, I'd love to see your business plan. Would you like to share it with me? They get really big eyes and they're like, what do you mean a business plan? And I have to then educate them that you can't just live off likes and shares. At some point, if you don't monetize, you're going to be somebody with some really good ideas and you're going to be really hungry. So I help teens understand, and this applies to any entrepreneur, you have to have a why. Why are you doing what you want to do? What problem do you solve? And will you get joy from solving that problem? For me, as a college admissions and financial strategist, when a student gets accepted to college and they call me and say, Shellee, we just got into XYZ, I'm like, that's so exciting. I wish I could go. And they said, well, I got to go and call my parents. I'm like, you haven't told your parents yet?
Aw.
Like, that's the greatest joy and compliment that I could imagine, that I am helping teenagers really prepare for their future, not just to get into college, but to get out with a plan of what that career looks like. We can even talk about AI and if that job will be there now. So it's important at any stage, corporate job, entrepreneur, if you don't have a plan, you will plan to fail.
Yeah, that is so true. And I love your why and how you're helping these students. And you do a lot of media appearances, and I that in itself can take a lot for entrepreneurs to continue showing their face, especially when you are the face of the brand. You were just on Next Level CEO. You were on a new TV show for Apple TV, and you were nominated for the Global Educational Consultant of the Year. These are things that a lot of entrepreneurs want recognition in, but it's not something that happens in your first year of business, right? Like it's something that takes time showing up, continuing to show up. And to your point of always having a business plan for anyone who wants to be an influencer or anything, what was your plan for to get these big media appearances?
Wow, that's been kind of a big challenge for me. I never wanted to be the face of the brand. So that was
Mhm.
the number one struggle. I didn't want to be the influencer. I just wanted to work with teenagers and help them be amazing. And so I had to change my mindset. I had to really think, if I don't tell my story, people are not going to know it's possible. That's what really changed the trajectory of me having all this opportunity. 2 years ago, I was in Dubai receiving international awards, and I was interviewed, and they say, you're so humble. Like, you don't even act like this is a big deal. And I said, it's really not about me. It's really about the impact that we get to make at College Ready. I have a team of 11. I just happen to be the visionary of the team. The team is my support, and they are the village that helps these families navigate this process. So, what was that plan? The plan was change your mindset and tell your story because people resonate with your story. They don't necessarily want a thing. They want what you have. They want the college without the debt. They want their child to, have a career that they don't have to come home and live in their high school bedroom, right? So when I started thinking about how I could help these families, I really was able to do some mindset shifting. And then I got really clear and I hired a mentor. And that was a big game changer. Why? Because as an entrepreneur, you only have yourself to hold accountable. And I am super motivated, super driven, very much like I don't need anybody to tell me to go to work. I actually need people to tell me stop working. But where I was struggling is I needed somebody to say, where's your business plan? What are your KPIs? What are your goals, long, short term? I thought, oh, they're all in my head. They'll happen. But until they were on paper and I had somebody to hold me accountable to those goals, wow, that was a big game changer. So I highly recommend having that person or people. I've now had 7 of them over 18 years, and all of them took me to the next level. I'm super grateful. I have one now. She's outstanding, scares me a little bit, but outstanding. And they should scare you a little bit, right? It's like applying to that college that you don't think you can get into. My son never thought he could get into Harvard. He's like, "Mom, I'm just like everybody else." But he wasn't. He had a standout strategy. That's what I want entrepreneurs to think about. How are you going to stand out? Why would somebody come to you? Why would they spend their time and money invested in you? And when you get clarity and your business plan reflects that, it just happens. I can't explain. I didn't go knock on doors asking for these opportunities. I just changed my mindset and thought, well, why can't I be on TV? My goal, just to be real, I want to be on Shark Tank. But
Okay.
since Damon John is on Shark Tank or was on Shark Tank, I'm like, I'm close. I'm super close. So my goal, I love Shark Tank so much. I find so much joy in seeing other entrepreneurs have success that for me, I'm like, well, why can't I be on that? And that's a mindset shift.
Yeah, it is. I have some cousins that were on Shark Tank, and they're from Huntington Beach, and so
Love
pretty
that.
close to you. It's such a random connection, but
Yeah.
no, that is a really important mindset shift to have of like, why can't I? And seeing the bigger vision while you're continuing to go after these media appearances and even investing in your business. That's a big thing for a lot of newer entrepreneurs is they are not making a ton of money, so they don't wanna spend money. But
Yeah.
investing in coaching and investing in mentors has been the biggest moneymaker in my business by far.
You too. See, we're not
Yeah.
alone.
No, the ROI is just as long as it's the right person and you do the research, then it definitely pays off.
I tell parents all the time as well, like you could do your own taxes or you pay a CPA and they know tax code. You could sell your own home or you hire a realtor and they can sell your house quicker. Hiring a college admissions and financial strategist is the same exact thing. What people invest in us, they get 2 to 3 times back in scholarships and they don't have to figure it all out on their own. It's so simple when you look at the return on your time, energy, and investment. And let's be honest, how many of your teenagers will listen to what you ask them to do? That is the biggest reason people hire me is because they know their teenager will do exactly what I ask them to do because all I ask them to do is go get their dream.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's the same exact thing for many other entrepreneurs, but it really does pay off to invest and pay somebody who's already been down that path and can do it so much better.
Yeah. Saves you time for sure. You're the
Mhm.
host of the podcast Parents, Is Your Teen College Ready? As you know, I'm a big fan of podcasts, so I'd love to hear you have about 132 episodes right now, I just looked, and
Wow.
I know that's a ton, congratulations.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Congratulations. When did you start and why'd you start it?
Oh, this is a great story, and I'll give you the condensed version. I had an Italian exchange daughter living with me for a year, and she loved Disneyland. And I grew up in Southern California, and I honestly am over Disneyland. But because I was a great exchange mom, I would go because she couldn't drive, take her to Disneyland, and we would stand in lines. And how I got through it was listening to podcasts.
Wow.
So I would stand in line and she would be on her phone doing whatever teenagers do. And I would get so much great information just standing in line for Disneyland rides. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, I could help so many more people. Why didn't I start a podcast? It was that simple. And while we were standing in line for the Matterhorn, I will never forget it. I started talking to my two teenagers, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's start a podcast. What's the name going to be? And we came up with Parents, Is Your Teen College Ready? Like, so original, but we wanted parents to know yes or no. And that was it. I went home and I started researching for somebody just like you to help me cuz I didn't want to do the podcast stuff. I just wanted to give the information to the people for free so they could get their kids into college and graduate without debt. Like it seems like a no-brainer. What I didn't know is how much work goes into creating a podcast.
Yeah.
Nobody ever explained. I just thought, oh, I have to go and talk to people. I love talking to people. But it's the pre show, the post show, the editing, the show notes, the links, oh my goodness. If you are listening and you are thinking about starting a podcast, one, don't think, just do. But two, there's awesome people that can help you. It doesn't have to be you. And I will tell you, it's worth every single dime that you will spend.
Yeah. Well, obviously I agree with you, but it is like it is so important. I know a lot of people who dream about starting podcasts or even have started podcasts. I don't know if you know this stat, but most podcasts drop off after 3 episodes.
I did
3.
not know that.
And then there's another big drop off after 10.
What?
Like most podcasts do not make it past 10 episodes. So the fact that you've made it over 100, you should be very proud of yourself because
Another
such a
statistic I
small
didn't know.
such a small amount literally make it to podcast number 11. So, just a little
I
podcast
love
fact.
that. Well, I have about 33,000 followers on all of my socials. And so my kids think I'm an influencer. And I'm like, but I don't know any of them. And that makes me sad. So if you are listening, please call me. I would love to get to know you.
That is definitely, definitely. Well, I've absolutely loved this conversation. I have one last question for you, but is there anything else you wanna share before we get to that last piece?
I think a couple things that would be helpful for your listeners. One, if you're a parent of a middle school or high school student and they want to go to college, they can't do it alone. And unfortunately, their high school counselor is very busy with emotional support and truancy and all the other stuff. They either need you or they need someone. So if it's not you, please get them help. This is a big deal and their future is really counting on it. If they do it well, they graduate without debt and a career. If they don't, they pick a major, they go into debt, and they don't have a job. Let's do it well. For the entrepreneur who is listening or a student who wants to be an influencer, it's very important that you have a plan. Just like you have a college ready plan, right? You want to have a business plan or an influencer plan. And for your listeners, speaking of a plan, if you go to collegereadyplan.info, I will give you 30 minutes of my time where I will sit with you and help you create that plan so you will feel like you are college ready. So hopefully that helps your listeners.
Absolutely. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. Thank you so much. So, my last question for you, and the way I wrap up every episode of Employee to Boss, is asking you for 3 action steps for the audience to take this week. There's so many podcasts, there's so many books, courses, resources that people can consume, but nothing happens unless you take action, right?
Mhm.
So, what action are they going to do this week?
Write down why you want a podcast, why and what will it serve. So in other words, you may want it because it'd be fun to talk to people, but like what is the point of the podcast? That's number 1. Number 2, go on to LinkedIn and find your first 3 guests and go out and say, I would like to interview you on my podcast. If they don't respond to you, you're going down the wrong path.
Yep.
You absolutely people I don't know if I've ever asked somebody to be on my podcast and they said, "No, I'm not interested, thank you." If it's the right podcast, they're like, "Oh my gosh, such an honor. Thank you so much." That's how you know you have a great topic and you're speaking to the right people. And number 3, just do it. Pick out the name while you're in line at a Disney ride,
Mhm.
call somebody to help you build it, and start the podcast. It's a great idea, but it's only an idea if you don't do anything with it.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I love it so much. A little podcast edition challenge for everyone. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I'll be sure to put the link to your websites, your social media, and that free 30-minute call in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.